The storm howled that night, rattling the windows of our small Bowling Green home. My wife, Hannah, and our 8-year-old son, Rocky, were already asleep, wrapped in the quiet peace of their dreams. But for me, peace was shattered by the shrill, insistent ring of the phone, cutting through the darkness just before midnight. My heart gave a sudden, hard lurch, an unfamiliar number, but the Nashville area code made my blood run cold. I picked it up, whispering a cautious hello, trying not to wake Hannah. On the other end, a tiny voice, trembling and barely a whisper, came through as if from a world far away. "Uncle Elias, they've locked me up. I'm so scared. I'm alone, starving. Please help, Uncle." It was Zoe, my 6-year-old niece. Then a sickening click, and the line went dead. My hand gripped the receiver so tightly my knuckles went white. Panic, cold and sharp, clawed at my throat, drowning all reason. I called back, but the line just rang into an endless, empty void. No answer. My heart felt like it was being squeezed, crushed inside my chest. Zoe was in danger. I could feel it as real as the biting cold rain lashing outside. I raced into the bedroom, shaking Hannah awake. "Hannah," Zoe called. She said she's locked up. She's scared. "I'm going to Nashville now." Hannah sat up, her eyes heavy with sleep and confusion. What's wrong with Zoe?" "Calm down. Call your parents first." My hand shook so violently, I nearly dropped the phone as I dialed my parents' number. It rang and rang. Nothing. I tried my mother, Robin's, mobile. Still nothing. "Hannah, I'm going. Stay here with Rocky." "I'll call you," I shouted, grabbing my jacket and car keys, not waiting for a response. I sped through the stormy rain, the wipers working at full throttle but barely clearing the view. The highway from Bowling Green to Nashville, normally an hour's drive, felt endless, stretching into an eternity of black asphalt and lashing water. Thunder roared, but it couldn't drown out the frantic pounding of my own heart. Locked up, hungry, scared. Those words swirled in my head, drilling into my chest with every mile. Where were my parents? How could they let Zoe call me in the dead of night, her voice so utterly terrified? I thought of my recent visits, Zoe's increasingly distant, lost eyes, her frail body. I had seen those signs, but I'd foolishly trusted my parents to take care of her. Now, I wanted to punch myself for my complacency. The highway was a pitch-black tunnel, my headlights barely cutting through the thick sheet of rain. I tried Zoe's number again, then my parents' home and mobile, all futile. I tried to tell myself, maybe they're fast asleep, maybe Zoe's just scared because of the storm. But deep down, I knew something was terribly wrong. Zoe wasn't a child to exaggerate. If she said she was locked up, it was true. I pressed the gas harder, ignoring the car's shudder as it fought against the elements. The image of Zoe, tiny, clutching her worn teddy bear, flashed in my mind, making my eyes sting with unshed tears. Finally, after what felt like a lifetime, I reached my parents' quiet neighborhood in Nashville. Their old wooden house loomed in the beam of my headlights, shrouded in the rain. It was completely dark, not a single light seeping from the windows. I parked at the gate, jumped out, and was soaked to the bone in seconds. I pounded on the front door, shouting, "Dad, Mom, open the door." "Where's Zoe?" No response. I banged harder, my hand stinging, but only the relentless sound of rain answered. I ran to the back door, hoping against hope it would be unlocked, but it was bolted shut. My heart raced, a sickening mix of anger and fear churning within me. Where was Zoe? If my parents weren't home, how did she call? And if they were, why wasn't anyone answering? I didn't think further. Grabbing a large, jagged rock from the yard, I smashed the glass window of the side door. The shattering sound, sharp and violent, momentarily drowned out the thunder. Carefully, I cleared the broken shards and climbed inside. The familiar smell of old wood and musty air hit me, but it brought no comfort, only dread. "Zoe!" I shouted, flipping the light switch. Nothing. No power. The house was swallowed in absolute darkness, with only my phone's flashlight casting eerie, dancing beams on the walls. I searched the first floor, living room, kitchen, dining room. No one. My mind reeled, a frantic hamster on a wheel. Where was Zoe? Where were my parents? I raced up the stairs, taking 2 steps at a time, calling Zoe's name nonstop, my voice hoarse. In the second-floor hallway, I heard it, a faint noise like a soft whimper. I froze, my heart pounding in my ears. Zoe, where you? The whimper came again, from the small room at the end of the hall, the one my parents sometimes used as a storage closet. I ran to it, pushed the door, but it was locked. Zoe. I banged on the door, my voice thick with desperation. A weak, trembling voice answered from inside. Uncle Elias, I'm in here. I didn't hesitate. With all my strength, I kicked the door once, twice, and the weak hinges gave way with a splintering crash. In the dim, shaky light of my phone, I saw her. Zoe was curled up in the corner on the cold, bare floor, with only a thin, worn blanket. She was pale, her cheeks sunken, her eyes hollow, her small hands clutching her teddy bear, as if it were the only thing anchoring her to the world. You finally came to get me, Zoe whispered, her voice so faint I had to kneel to hear her. I scooped her up, her body frighteningly light, as if she had no strength left. You're okay now, Zoe. Uncle's here. I choked out, my voice breaking. She trembled in my arms, ice cold. I looked around the room. No bed, no food, just a few crumbs of dry bread scattered on the floor. An old, cheap cell phone lay in the corner. She must have borrowed it from a school friend to call me. Rage surged through me, a burning inferno. But I suppressed it. Now wasn't the time. I carried Zoe downstairs, wrapping her in my jacket to shield her from the chilling rain. Uncle's taking you to the hospital, okay? Zoe nodded weakly, her head resting heavily on my shoulder. I rushed to the car, placed Zoe gently in the back seat, and draped a blanket from the trunk over her. The rain had soaked through my clothes, but I didn't feel the cold. All I felt was raw panic and the burning, incandescent anger in my chest. I drove to the nearest hospital in Nashville, calling Hannah on the way. Hannah, I found Zoe. She's not okay. I'm taking her to the hospital. Hannah gasped, a sharp cry tearing through the phone. Oh my God, what's wrong with Zoe? Where are your parents? I gritted my teeth, my voice tight. I don't know. They're not home. At the hospital, I carried Zoe into the emergency room. Nurses rushed over, their faces etched with concern, placed her on a stretcher and wheeled her inside. I stood outside, drenched and numb, staring through the glass doors. Zoe lay there, small and frail, surrounded by doctors. A nurse approached me, her expression kind. Are you the child's relative? I nodded. I'm her uncle, Elias Turner. She jotted something down, her gaze compassionate. We'll check on her right away. Please wait here. I sank into a waiting room chair, my hands trembling uncontrollably. The image of Zoe, curled up in that locked room, haunted me. Where were my parents? How could they let this happen to her? The foster care stipend, their solemn promises to care for her, were they all lies? I called my parents again, but still no answer. I texted Hannah, telling her to stay with Rocky and that I'd update her. But in my heart, I knew everything had changed. The dark, silent house, the bolted door, and Zoe, the little girl I loved like my own, left starving and terrified. I swore to myself then and there that no matter what happened, I wouldn't let Zoe suffer anymore. The hospital in Nashville was brightly lit, but the atmosphere was chillingly cold. I sat in the waiting area, my jacket still soaked from the rain, clutching my phone as if it were the only thing keeping me from falling apart. The image of Zoe, small and pale, her sunken eyes filled with panic, haunted me. I couldn't shake the moment I found her in that locked room, curled up on the floor, clinging to her old teddy bear like it was her last lifeline. Where were my parents? How could they let Zoe end up like this? The questions bore into my mind, each one like a stab. The emergency room door swung open and a doctor stepped out. He was wearing glasses, his graying hair neatly combed, a name tag on his white coat, reading Dr. Apollo Patel. He looked at me, his expression serious yet gentle. Are you Elias Turner, the girl's uncle? He asked. I nodded, standing up abruptly, my voice raspy. "How's Zoe, doctor? Is she okay?" Dr. Patel gestured for me to sit back down, then sighed, his voice low and grave. "I'll be straightforward. Zoe's condition is serious. She's suffering from chronic malnutrition, prolonged starvation, and physical exhaustion. There are also clear signs of psychological distress, likely from extended neglect. We're administering fluids and nutrients, but she needs close monitoring." His words hit me like a physical punch to the chest. Chronic malnutrition, prolonged starvation, psychological distress. I shook my head, struggling to process each word. How? How could this happen? I stammered. She lives with her grandparents. They get a stipend to care for her. How could she be starving? Dr. Patel looked at me with deep sympathy. "I don't know your family's circumstances, Mr. Turner, but this didn't happen overnight. Zoe has been malnourished for a long time, possibly months, even a year. She's severely underweight, deficient in essential vitamins, and her mental state is unstable. Do you know anything about her situation before you brought her here?" I sank back into the chair, my mind reeling. Memories flashed like a fast-forwarding film. Zoe's gaunt frame, her hollow cheeks, her lost eyes every time I visited. The time she whispered, "I want to live with you, Uncle." And I just smile, pat her head, thinking she only missed me. The times Robin said, "Zoe's picky," or Stone insisted, "She's fine. Why are you worrying?" I had seen the signs, but I chose to trust my parents, to believe they loved their granddaughter. Now, the doctor's words tore through the facade of lies I'd built for myself. I had failed Zoe. I had let her suffer in silence. "Doctor," I whispered, my voice choking, "will she be okay?" She's everything to me." Dr. Patel placed a comforting hand on my shoulder. "We'll do our best. Zoe's young. Her body can recover, but she needs proper care, both physically and mentally. You should contact Child Protective Services. This situation, it shows signs of serious neglect." I nodded, but my mind was blank. Neglect. The word echoed in me, sharp as a blade. I looked back through the glass door of the emergency room. Zoe lay there, eyes closed, and 4-line in her arm. She looked so small, so fragile, like a bird with broken wings. I wondered what Zoe had endured in that house. The days and months of being neglected, locked in a dark room, hungry and afraid. And my parents, Stone and Robin, the people I trusted, what had they done with the stipend meant for her? I remember Robin's new handbags, the big screen TV in their living room, Stone bragging about dining out with friends. The $500 monthly stipend was supposed to buy food, clothes, and school supplies for Zoe. Now I realized the bitter truth. They had spent it on themselves. I clenched my fists, my nails digging into my palms. Rage surged hot and consuming, but I forced myself to suppress it. Zoe needed me to stay calm. I pulled out my phone and texted Hannah. "Zoe's malnourished. It's bad. I'm at the hospital. She'll be okay." Hannah replied instantly, "My God, Elias, how did it come to this? I'll come see her tomorrow." Before I could respond, my phone buzzed again. It was Robin's number. My heart tightened, but I answered, my voice icy. "Mom, why are you calling so late?" Robin's voice came through, rushed and hesitant. "Elias, where are you? Have you seen Zoe? Your dad and I went to a friend's party, and when we got back, she was gone. The side window's broken, too." I was stunned. A party? They left Zoe alone in a locked house to go to a party? It was unthinkable. I wanted to scream, to drive back to their house and confront them, to demand the whole truth, but I held back, pretending ignorance. "What do you mean Zoe's missing? You left her home alone." I emphasized each word, struggling to keep my voice steady, though pure anger boiled inside me. Robin fumbled. "Well, we thought Zoe was asleep, and we were only gone for a bit. When we got back, she wasn't there. Have you seen her? We saw your missed calls. Did you take her?" I heard Stone's gruff voice in the background. "Tell Elias not to make a big deal out of this." I clenched my jaw, seeing their blatant deceit. They weren't worried about Zoe's disappearance. They didn't even know she was lying in a hospital. too weak to sit up. They just wanted to cover it up, to save face with their neighbors. "Mom," I said, my voice trembling with suppressed fury, "how could you leave Zoe alone? She's 6 years old. You knew she was frail. Why weren't you home taking care of her?" Robin faltered, her voice rising in defense. "Elias, you're talking like we abused her or something. We just stepped out for a bit. Zoe's well-behaved. You know that. She can sleep on her own." Stone cut in, his tone sharp. "You dare blame us? You're too busy to care for her, so don't lecture us." I was speechless. Not a word of apology, not a hint of genuine concern. Only blame and pride. I wanted to scream into the phone, to tell them Zoe was fighting for her life because of their neglect, but I stopped myself. If I spoke now, they'd find ways to dodge, to fake concern. I had to protect Zoe first. "Fine," I said, my voice cold as ice. "I'll look for Zoe. You two should look for her, too. If you find her, call me immediately." I hung up before they could respond. Standing in the hospital hallway, I felt like my world had collapsed. My parents, the people who raised me, whom I trusted, had betrayed Zoe, betrayed Jetson. They hadn't just neglected her. They'd used her stipend to live comfortably while she starved and trembled in a locked room. I looked back at Zoe through the glass. A nurse was checking her monitor, her eyes full of pity. I told myself, "Zoe, I won't let you suffer anymore." But I knew that to keep that promise, I had to face the horrifying truth about my family. My parents weren't just indifferent. They had abandoned Zoe, leaving her to live in hunger and loneliness. I had to act, not just for Zoe, but for my own conscience. I called Hannah, my voice shaking. "Hannah, they left Zoe alone to go to a party. I'm calling the police. She can't stay with them anymore." Hannah sobbed over the phone. "Elias, how could they do that? Whatever you do, bring Zoe to us, okay?" I nodded, though she couldn't see. "I will, I promise." I hung up and looked at Zoe again. She lay there, frail but alive. That was my only glimmer of hope now. I knew the road ahead would be rough. My parents wouldn't let go easily. They'd blame me, fight to save face. But I was resolute. Zoe would never return to that house. Never. Sitting in a hospital hallway, I felt like I was standing in the middle of an endless storm. The steady hum of the machines in the emergency room was a constant reminder that Zoe was still fighting. But I knew the real battle was only just beginning. I took out my phone, took a deep breath, and called the Nashville police. An officer's voice answered. "Nashville Police Department. How can I assist you?" I tried to keep my voice calm, though my heart was still pounding. "I want to report an incident. My niece, Zoe Turner, 6 years old, was left alone at her grandparents' house. I went to check. The house was locked. No one was there, and she was missing." I paused, choosing my words carefully. I didn't mention that I'd found Zoe or that she was in the hospital. I needed time to gather evidence to ensure Zoe's safety before my parents found out. The officer asked for more details: the address, a description of Zoe, and information about her grandparents. I answered briefly, my voice stiff, masking the rage boiling inside me. "We'll send someone to check immediately," he said. "Can you come to the station to provide more information?" I agreed, but my mind was already forming a different plan. I couldn't just sit and wait. I needed the truth, the full truth about what happened to Zoe over the past 2 years. The $500 monthly stipend, my parents' promises to care for her, it was all a lie. Now, I had to find irrefutable evidence to protect Zoe, to ensure she never had to return to that house. I looked back through the glass door of the emergency room. Zoe was still there, and for a line in her arm, her small face pale, but calmer now. A nurse came out and said, "She's more stable now, Mr. Turner, but she'll need to stay for a few days for monitoring." I thanked her, but my heart remained heavy. I needed to act quickly before my parents realized Zoe was here. I started thinking about what to do next. Check their bank accounts. Find out how the stipend had really been spent. I drove back to my parents' house. The rain had stopped, but the sky remained dark and overcast. The house was still pitch black, no lights on. My parents were probably out, frantically looking for Zoe, maintaining their charade. I entered through the broken window I'd smashed earlier. Inside, the familiar smell of old wood and mildew hit me, but now it sent a shiver down my spine. I turned on my phone's flashlight and went straight to Stone's desk in the living room. He always kept important documents in that old drawer. I rummaged through it and found a stack of bank statements. My heart raced as I flipped through the pages. Their account clearly showed the monthly stipend, $500, as expected, but the transactions that followed made my blood boil. Cash withdrawals, shopping at malls, restaurant bills, even a short trip to Memphis. There was no trace of purchases for food, clothes, or school supplies for Zoe. I snapped photos of every receipt, my hands trembling with anger. The money meant to nurture Zoe had been squandered on my parents' luxuries. I kept searching, moving to Robin's wardrobe. There, I found new handbags, expensive shoes, and a fur coat she'd once bragged about getting on sale at a high-end store. I thought of Zoe's lost eyes, her frail body, and felt like someone was choking me. They had let Zoe starve while using her money to live lavishly. I photographed everything, carefully noting each detail. This would be evidence, but I needed more. I decided to talk to the neighbors. The house next door belonged to Cheryl, an elderly woman who often sat on her porch knitting. I knocked on her door, though it was nearly 2 o'clock in the morning. Cheryl opened it, her eyes surprised but filled with concern. "Elias, what's going on? I saw you break into your parents' house earlier." I took a deep breath and briefly explained finding Zoe, carefully omitting that she was in the hospital. "Cheryl, have you heard anything strange from their house about Zoe, my niece?" Cheryl sighed, her eyes heavy with a sadness I now understood. "Elias, I don't want to speak ill of your parents, but I've heard Zoe crying a lot, especially at night. Once, I heard Robin scold her, telling her to be quiet. 'Don't bother us,' she said, and Stone would yell, saying she was naughty and wouldn't eat." She paused, her voice trembling slightly. "I asked about her once, but Robin said Zoe was just being whiny, normal kid stuff. She looked so thin. So I brought over some cookies once, but Robin wouldn't let her take them." I clenched my fists, tried to contain my volcanic anger. "Did you ever see them leave Zoe alone?" I asked. Cheryl nodded many times. "Oh, yes. They'd go out at night, leaving her at home. I was worried, but I didn't dare interfere." Her words were another stab, confirming my worst fears. I thanked her, promised a return, and went back to my car. My mind reeled as the pieces fell into place. Zoe wasn't just neglected. She was scolded, left alone in a house that was supposed to be her home. But I needed more evidence, especially from her school. The next morning, I called Maplewood Elementary, the school near my parents' house. I spoke with Zoe's teacher, Rebecca Allen. "I'm Elias Turner, Zoe Turner's uncle," I said. "I'd like to know about her school performance." Allen hesitated. "Mr. Turner, Zoe is enrolled, but she's barely attended class. She's been absent for over 90% of the school term." My heart sank to my stomach. How is that possible? Didn't her grandparents say anything? Allen sighed. "We sent multiple warnings, but got no response. I called once, and Robin said Zoe was often sick, but she never provided medical records. We were very concerned, but we couldn't intervene further. I asked Allen to send me Zoe's school records. She agreed, and that afternoon, I received an email with the documents. The records confirmed what she'd said. Zoe had attended only a few days at the start of the year, then was almost entirely absent. Teacher notes described Zoe as withdrawn, quiet, appearing tired. Reading them, my eyes stung with tears. Zoe wasn't just neglected at home. She'd been deprived of education, socialization, and the chance to live like a normal child. I returned to the hospital, carrying the damning evidence I gathered, bank statements, photos of Robin's luxury items, Cheryl's handwritten testimony, and the school records. Zoe was still in the recovery room, but the doctor said she was more alert. I sat by her bedside, holding her small hand. "Zoe, Uncle's here. You won't have to go back there," I whispered. Zoe looked at me, her eyes still fearful, but she nodded weakly. "Uncle, I don't want to stay with Grandma and Grandpa anymore, she said, her voice faint as a breeze. I hugged her gently, vowing to myself that I would do everything in my power to bring her to my family. I knew what came next. I needed a lawyer and to file a case to gain permanent custody of Zoe. My parents wouldn't give up easily. They'd fight, not out of love for Zoe, but for their pride and the monthly stipend. But I was ready. For Zoe, I wouldn't back down. I started looking for a lawyer. Hannah recommended Jennifer Lawson, a well-known family law attorney in Bowling Green. I scheduled a meeting with her the next morning, bringing all the evidence I'd gathered: my parents' bank statements, photos of Robin's luxury items, Cheryl's handwritten testimony, and Zoe's school records from Maplewood Elementary. As I placed a thick stack of documents on her desk, Jennifer, a sharp blonde woman with piercing eyes, flipped through each page, her brows furrowing tightly. "Elias," she said, her voice low and serious. "This is serious. This evidence clearly shows neglect. The bank statements, in particular, are compelling. The stipend was obviously not used to care for Zoe." I nodded, trying to suppress my simmering anger. "Jennifer, I just want Zoe to be safe. She can't go back to her grandparents." Jennifer looked at me, her gaze softening slightly. "I understand. We'll file a custody lawsuit. You're a direct relative with a stable job and family. Your chances are strong." Jennifer got to work immediately. She prepared the lawsuit, detailing everything: Zoe's malnutrition, educational neglect, the neighbor's testimony, and the blatant misuse of the stipend. I provided more information about my family, about Jetson and Zoe's circumstances over the past 2 years. Each time I recounted the story, it felt like someone was squeezing my heart. I had let Zoe suffer for too long, all because I trusted my parents. Now I had to make things right. A week later, the lawsuit was filed with the Nashville Family Court. I received notice that my parents would be served with a summons within a few days. I knew that once they received it, things would explode. Sure enough, that evening, my phone rang. It was Robin. Her voice was icy, a stark contrast to the feigned concern from a few days earlier. "Elias, what kind of nonsense are you pulling? You're hiding Zoe, and now you dare see your own parents? Who do you think you are, accusing us of neglecting her?" I took a deep breath, keeping my voice steady, though my stomach churned. "Mom, I'm not making accusations. I have proof. Zoe was malnourished, locked in a room, abandoned. How do you explain that?" Robin's voice sharpened over the phone. "You're making this up to get the stipend, aren't you? You want to steal her from us for the money." Her words cut like a knife, but I wasn't surprised. I knew my parents were obsessed with appearances, always thinking everything revolved around money and pride. Stone grabbed the phone, his voice booming with fury. "Elias, if you don't drop this lawsuit, we'll disown you. You're no longer my son." I gripped the phone tightly, my heart pounding, but my voice remained cold and unwavering. "Dad, I won't drop it. I'm doing this for Zoe, not for money. If you really loved her, why did you let her starve? Let her tremble in fear in a locked room?" They hung up, leaving me with a long, cold beep. The air in my family, already fractured, now shattered completely. I sank onto the sofa, my mind reeling. Hannah hugged me from behind, whispering, "You're doing the right thing, Elias. Zoe needs you." I held her hand, feeling like I was clinging to a lifeboat in a violent storm. The following days were a blur of tension. My parents called repeatedly, sometimes threatening, sometimes feigning apologies. "Elias, you misunderstood," Robin said in one call, her voice softer, almost pleading. "We only went to that party once. Zoe was fine." I didn't respond, just hung up. I couldn't trust them anymore. Every time I heard their voices, I remembered Zoe curled up in that dark room, her trembling voice over the phone, "Uncle, I'm so scared." I told myself that no matter what they said, I wouldn't waver. Zoe deserved a real home, and I would do everything to give her that. Jennifer called me to her office a few days later with an update. "The court has set a hearing date 3 weeks from now," she said. "Your parents have hired their own lawyer, and they're trying to dismiss the neglect allegations. They claim Zoe was just sick and you're exaggerating to gain custody. I shook my head, unsurprised. Jennifer, I have evidence. The doctor, the neighbor, the school, they all confirm the truth. Jennifer nodded. Exactly. We have a strong case, but brace yourself. The hearing won't be easy. Their position as your parents and the family dynamics will make this more complicated. I knew she was right, but every time I thought of Zoe, I knew I had no other choice. I visited Zoe at the hospital every day. She would start to eat small amount of porridge, but remained quiet, her small frame still fragile. I told her how Rocky was worried about her, about our house in Bowling Green, about Hannah's vibrant garden. You'll love it there, I said, ruffling her hair. Zoe gave a faint smile, the first time I saw a spark of hope in her eyes. That was my motivation to keep going. The day of the hearing arrived, and the atmosphere in the Nashville courtroom was heavy, like the sky before a storm. I sat at the plaintiff's table next to Jennifer, clutching the stack of evidence tightly. Across from us, my parents sat upright, their gazes icy. Stone wore an old, ill-fitting suit, trying to maintain an air of dignity, while Robin kept wiping her eyes as if playing the role of a grieving grandmother. Their lawyer, a middle-aged man with a smooth, oily voice, looked at me as if I were a traitor. Zoe wasn't present. Jennifer said it was better for her mental state, but I felt her presence in every moment, in every beat of my heart. Judge Franklin Moore, a tall man with a stern, unyielding face, struck his gavel. "Let's begin," he declared. Jennifer stood up and presented the case with quiet authority. Zoe's malnutrition, educational neglect, the misuse of the stipend, and the neighbor's testimony. She called the first witness, Dr. Apollo Patel. He took the stand, his voice calm and steady. Zoe Turner suffered from chronic malnutrition, prolonged starvation, and shows clear signs of psychological distress due to extended neglect. This condition didn't develop in a few days. It's been ongoing for months, possibly a year. My parents' lawyer tried to counter. "Doctor, could it be that the child was just sick or a picky eater?" But Dr. Patel shook his head, unflinching. "No, this is evidence of severe lack of care. A 6-year-old cannot cause this condition herself." I looked at my parents, hoping for a trace of remorse. But Robin only lowered her head, and Stone frowned, as if angry at the doctor's words. The next witness was Cheryl, the neighbor. She took the stand, her voice trembling slightly, but firm. I heard Zoe crying many times, especially at night. Mr. and Mrs. Turner often left her alone, going out until late. I once brought food over, but Robin wouldn't let Zoe take it. Their lawyer tried to twist her words. "You only heard crying. Kids can be whiny, right?" But Cheryl stood firm. "No, it wasn't whining." Zoe was scared, and I was worried for her. Rebecca Allen, Zoe's teacher, was next. She presented the school records, showing that Zoe had been absent for over 90% of the school term. We sent warnings, but received no response from Mr. and Mrs. Turner, she said. Zoe was barely attending school. Judge Moore took notes, his expression growing more serious with each testimony. Jennifer presented the receipts, highlighting my parents' extravagant spending. Handbags, dinners, a trip to Memphis. The $500 monthly stipend was meant to care for Zoe, she argued, her voice resonating through the silent courtroom. But there's no evidence it was used for that purpose. My parents' lawyer countered, claiming they'd care for Zoe and that I was simply trying to steal her for the stipend money. Jennifer fired back sharply. "Mr. Turner has a stable job and family. He doesn't need the stipend. He just wants his niece to be safe and loved." It was my turn to take the stand. I looked directly at the judge, my voice trembling but resolute. "Your Honor, I'm not doing this for money. I'm doing this for Zoe. She was locked in a room, starved, denied an education. I'm her uncle, and I want her to live in a safe environment where she's loved." I glanced at my parents, hoping for a moment of shame, but Stone glared at me, and Robin turned away, refusing to meet my eyes. My parents took the stand next. Robin sobbed, claiming they loved Zoe and that she was just sick. Stone accused me of making up stories to tear the family apart. But the evidence was overwhelming, the truth undeniable. Judge Moore called for a recess, then returned with his ruling. Based on the evidence and testimonies, he said, his voice grave and final, this court grants full custody of Zoe Turner to Elias Turner. Mr. and Mrs. Stone and Robin Turner will be monitored by Child Protective Services, and the foster care stipend will be terminated. The courtroom fell silent. Robin burst into loud, theatrical tears, but I knew it wasn't for Zoe. It was for her shattered pride, her ruined reputation. Stone stood up, pointing a trembling finger at me. You'll regret this, Elias. You're no longer my son. I looked at him, saying nothing. My heart ached, a deep, hollow pain, but I had no regrets. I had chosen Zoe, and it was the right choice. After the hearing, Jennifer patted my shoulder. You did well, Elias. Zoe will be safe with you. I nodded, but my heart was still heavy. My family was broken, but I had no other choice. I drove back to the hospital, where Zoe was waiting. I sat by her bedside, held her hand, and said, Zoe, you're coming home with Uncle. Everything will be okay now. She smiled faintly, a small, fragile blossom of hope, and hugged me tightly, silent tears streaming down her pale face. The feeling of Zoe's small hands clinging to me, weak but full of trust, warmed my heart like nothing else. I knew that from now on, I wasn't just Zoe's uncle. I would be her second father. A few days later, Zoe was discharged from the hospital. Dr. Apollo Patel gave me detailed instructions. She needs a special diet and regular psychological monitoring. Her mental state is still fragile, but with love and consistent care, she'll recover. I nodded, committing every word to memory. As I carried Zoe to the car, she hugged her old teddy bear, looking out the window with a mix of curiosity and apprehension. Am I going to meet Aunt Hannah and Rocky soon? She asked, her voice tiny and hopeful. I ruffled her hair. That's right, sweetheart. They're waiting for you at home. The drive from Nashville to Bowling Green was strangely peaceful. I turned on the radio, choosing a cheerful children's song, hoping to help Zoe relax. She gave a faint smile, and in that moment, I knew I was doing the right thing. When we arrived home, Hannah and Rocky were waiting at the door, their faces beaming with anticipation. Hannah ran out and hugged Zoe tightly, tears in her eyes. Welcome home, Zoe. We're so glad you're here. Rocky, with a wide grin, held up a small soccer ball. Zoe, I'll teach you how to play soccer. Zoe was shy, initially clinging to me, but her eyes lit up at the warm welcome, at the genuine, overflowing love. I looked at Hannah, feeling her unconditional love for Zoe enveloping us all. Thank you. I whispered, my voice thick with emotion. Hannah squeezed my hand. We're a family. Honey, Zoe is our daughter now. The first few days, Zoe was still scared. At night, she often woke up from nightmares, crying out for me or Hannah. One night, I rushed into her room and found her curled up in the corner of the bed, clutching her teddy bear, whispering, I'm scared. They'll lock me up again. I held her close, soothing her gently. No one will ever lock you up again, Zoe. Uncle's here. Aunt Hannah's here. Rocky's here. You're safe now. Always. Gradually, Zoe began to trust us. The nightmares became less frequent. Though I knew the wounds in her heart would take time to heal, I took Zoe to see a psychologist, Dr. Allison Pierce, a gentle but professional woman. During therapy sessions, Zoe slowly opened up, sharing about her time with my parents. The days she was left hungry, locked in a room, scolded for crying. Each story was like a knife to my heart. Uncle Elias, I just want to make Grandma and Grandpa happy, but I always did something wrong, Zoe said, her eyes welling with tears. Dr. Pierce reassured her. Zoe, you didn't do anything wrong. You deserve to be loved, cherished, and safe. I sat outside the room, listening to the door, my heart breaking, but also feeling a profound sense of hope. Zoe was slowly, bravely, regaining her confidence. At home, we tried to give Zoe a normal, joyful life. Hannah cooked nutritious meals, from hearty chicken soup to homemade cookies, to help Zoe gain weight. Rocky became her best friend, her shadow, always protective of her. One day, I saw Rocky holding Zoe's hand, leading her to the backyard to play soccer. Don't be afraid, he said. I won't let you fall. Zoe laughed loudly, a clear, carefree sound that filled the air. The first time I truly heard her laugh since Mia's death. Those moments, Hannah singing lullabies, Rocky playing with Zoe, our family gathered around the dinner table, were medicine for both Zoe and me. I enrolled Zoe in Rocky's elementary school, Bowling Green Elementary. On her first day, she held my hand tightly, her eyes anxious. Uncle, what if the teacher scolds me? I knelt down, looking into her eyes. The teacher will love you, Zoe, and Rocky will be there with you. Rocky, standing nearby, puffed out his chest with mock bravado. That's right. I'll protect you. Zoe smiled, a genuine, joyful smile, and I knew she was starting to settle in. Her teacher paid special attention to her, reporting that Zoe was doing well in school. Though still a little shy, she was making friends, and Rocky was always by her side, ensuring no one bullied her. As the months passed, Zoe began to truly change. She gained weight, her cheeks grew rosier, and her radiant smile appeared more often. Hannah and I turned the living room into a bright, welcoming play area for kids, filled with toys and books. Every evening, we read bedtime stories to Zoe and Rocky, tales of courage and family love. One night, Zoe hugged me tightly before bed, whispering, "Uncle Elias, you're the best dad in the world." My heart melted, overflowed with a love so profound it brought tears to my eyes. Zoe had found her home, her haven, and I knew that despite her painful past, she had a bright, beautiful future ahead. For years passed in the blink of an eye. Zoe was now 10 years old, a lively, spirited girl who loved painting and playing soccer with Rocky. She called me Dad Elias and Hannah Mom Hannah, which filled us with both emotion and pride. Rocky, now 12, remained a devoted big brother, always looking out for Zoe at school and at home. Our family had become a tight-knit unit, resilient and full of love, but there was still an empty space in my heart, a ghost named Jetson. My younger brother, who had vanished 4 years ago, remained a mystery. I didn't know if he was alive or gone, but I always prayed he'd found peace, wherever he was. Then, one autumn afternoon, while I was working on a car at the garage, my phone rang. It was an unfamiliar number, and I answered cautiously. "Hello, who's this?" On the other end, a familiar voice, deeper and more mature than I remembered, came through. "Elias, it's me. Jetson." My heart skipped a beat, then pounded wildly. "Jetson?" I whispered, hardly believing it was real. Where are you? Are you okay?" Jetson gave a soft, slightly hoarse laugh, his voice thick with emotion. "I'm okay, Elias. I want to see you, and Zoe. I'm in Bowling Green." I raced home, my mind in a turmoil of disbelief and surging hope. Hannah and Zoe were in the backyard, tending to the vegetable garden. When I told them about Jetson, Hannah hugged me tightly, tears blurring her eyes. "Oh my God, Elias, he's back!" Zoe looked up, her eyes wide with curiosity, a mixture of fear and longing. "Dad Jetson? Is he really back?" I nodded, holding back my own tears. "Yes, Zoe, your dad's back." An hour later, Jetson appeared at our doorstep. He had changed. He was thinner, with streaks of gray in his hair, but his eyes were bright, clear, and full of life. Not the haunted, dead eyes I remembered. Dressed in a sharp suit, he was no longer the man drowning in alcohol and pills. He was solid, present. When Zoe, hesitant at first, finally ran to him, Jetson knelt down, enveloping her in a fierce hug, tears streaming down his face, unashamed. "Zoe, I'm so sorry," he choked out, his voice breaking. "I'm so sorry for leaving you." Zoe clung to him, sobbing into his shoulder. "Dad, I missed you so much." I stood there watching their reunion, my heart torn between immense joy and the lingering pain of all they had lost. Jetson turned to me, gripping my hand tightly, his eyes shining with gratitude. "Elias, thank you. Thank you for saving Zoe, for giving her a home, for being there when I couldn't." I shook my head, my own voice thick. "Jetson, I just did what was right. You're my brother, and Zoe's your daughter. That's family." Jetson shared that over the past 6 years, he had sought therapy, gone to rehab, and then moved to California to start over. to truly heal. Now, he was a successful entrepreneur running a small tech company, a testament to his incredible resilience. Jetson stayed with us for a week, reconnecting with Zoe. He spent time playing with her, taking her to the park, telling her about the long, difficult years he fought to overcome his pain. Zoe slowly warmed up to her father, though she still called me Dad Elias, and Hannah, Mom Hannah. Jetson didn't mind, only smiling, a deep contentment in his eyes. Elias, you deserve to be Zoe's dad. You earned it. Then Jetson made a surprising declaration. I'm cutting ties with Mom and Dad. After what they did to Zoe, I can't forgive them. I nodded, understanding his decision completely. I, too, couldn't forgive what our parents had done to their own granddaughter. The years of Zoe's neglect, hunger, and fear in that locker room had left scars not only on her, but on Jetson and me as well. But now, seeing Zoe smile brightly beside her father, I knew we had overcome the darkness to find light. Our family, once shattered, was now rebuilding from the pieces, with Zoe at the center of our love and hope. One morning, Jetson called me to the backyard. Elias, he said, his voice low but firm, I've decided to take Zoe to New York. My company there is doing well, and I want Zoe to have a fresh start, a new home, a new life. I looked at him, seeing the maturity and determination in his eyes. Jetson was no longer the lost, broken brother of years past. He had found himself again, and now he wanted to give Zoe the best future possible. I nodded, though my heart felt heavy at the thought of her leaving. You're right, Jetson. Zoe deserves that, but you have to promise to take good care of her. Always. Jetson gripped my hand, his eyes glistening. I promise, Elias. And I'll bring Zoe back to visit you often. We're family, forever. Zoe ran out then, hugging both of us fiercely. I'll call Dad Elias and Mom Hannah every day, she said, her voice clear and bright. I ruffled her hair, holding back tears. We'll be waiting for your call, Zoe. On the day Jetson and Zoe left, our whole family saw them off at the airport. Zoe hugged Hannah tightly, then jumped up to hug Rocky. Rocky, I'll miss you so much. Rocky, trying to act tough, had red eyes. Study hard, Zoe. I'll come visit you in New York. As Jetson and Zoe passed through security, she turned back to wave, her smile radiant like sunshine. I stood there watching, feeling both proud of the brave girl she had become and wistful, knowing I'd miss her every single day. Zoe had found safety and love, and now she was embarking on a new journey, armed with hope. A few days later, while cleaning my desk, I found an envelope tucked under a stack of bills. Inside was a check for $1 million, signed by Jetson. A small note accompanied it, written in his neat handwriting from our school days. Elias, this isn't to repay a debt, because I know nothing can repay what you've done for Zoe. This is for you and Hannah to have a better life, to thank you for being an amazing brother to me and a second father to Zoe. I held the check, a quiet smile spreading across my face. Jetson had truly rebuilt his life, overcoming the unimaginable pain of losing his wife to become a successful, mature man. I didn't plan to use the money right away. I wanted to save it, perhaps for Rocky and Zoe's future, for their college funds. But that check, beyond its material value, was profound proof of my brother's return, of his healed spirit. Meanwhile, I heard about my parents through a mutual acquaintance in Nashville. Stone and Robin lived in isolation in their old house, rarely going out. After the trial, the local community learned the truth about the neglect of Zoe. The friends who once partied with them now kept their distance, whispering about their selfishness and cruelty. Cheryl, the neighbor, told me over the phone that Robin had tried to apologize to her, but her voice was full of false remorse, more concerned with appearances than true regret. They live in loneliness, Elias, Cheryl said. They know they were wrong, but their pride won't let them admit it, not truly. I didn't feel joy hearing this. Despite what they'd done, they were still my parents. Part of me ached, thinking of them, old and left behind in their own arrogance. But I didn't reach out. I had chosen Zoe, and I had no regrets. Sitting in our backyard, looking at the vibrant garden Hannah and Zoe once tended together, I reflected on everything that had happened. The fight for Zoe wasn't just a battle against my parents. It was a battle against myself, against the naivety of believing family would always put love first, against the easy path of ignorance. I learned that true love requires sacrifice, courage, and sometimes the painful willingness to cut ties with toxic relationships. Zoe taught me that with her resilient smile and the incredible way she overcame darkness to find light. If I had any advice for anyone, it would be this. Listen to your instincts. When I saw Zoe's gaunt frame and lost eyes, I chose to believe my parents' lies. And it nearly cost her future. Don't wait until it's too late. Protect the ones you love, even if it means confronting your own family, even if it means tearing apart the fabric of what you once thought was home. And most importantly, never, ever give up hope. Zoe survived. Jetson returned. And I found the true meaning of family, not always in blood, but undeniably in love, responsibility, and unwavering courage.